America's best days are yet to come. That's because conservatives like you know and live the values our great country was built on. The Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard in the D.C. swamp each day, shining the light on a bright future. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and won't give up the fight because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Look, there's tons going on Monday. When I come back, there always is. We have a very important guest who is running for office that I want to talk to as well. Very important. And yet, you know, the history bug kicks into me all the time here. So I want to do a little of that. Then there's a lot I want to cover tonight. I'm glad you're here. I think it's going to be a fantastic program, all 3 hours. President of the United States, in a very important statement about Tim Kaine, as he was speaking to a group of the faithful at the Museum of the Bible. I've been there. That's a fantastic place. If you ever come to Washington, D.C., my family and I have been there. I encourage you to check it out. It's focused primarily on the Christian faith, but also the Jewish faith as a lead up to the Christian faith. But I think you're going to love it. I really do. And it's a straight up, course on the Bible, the history of the Bible, the history of the various individuals in the Bible and the events and so forth. It's just killer. But here's the president at the museum today, and I want to build on this after you listen to this. Cut one, go.
Last week when the ineffectual senator from Virginia, a man named Tim Kaine, stated that the notion our rights come from our Creator is, quote, extremely troubling to him. Very troubling, isn't it troubling? Isn't that terrible, though? How he would say something like that and advocated really by a totalitarian regime. This is what they say. But as everyone in this room understands, it is tyrants who are denying our rights and the rights that come from God. And it's this Declaration of Independence that proclaims we're endowed by our Creator with the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The senator from Virginia should be ashamed of himself for many things. For many things. For things even beyond that, but in its own way, nothing's more important than those words. They were terrible words.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to dig into this further, because nobody's doing a better job of leading this fight than the president and Ted Cruz, and we here. This has been something we've been teaching here and talking about here for nearly a quarter of a century, and it matters. That's why I do it. Perhaps the most difficult book in terms of reading, in terms of scholarship for many people, was my book Ameritopia, which followed Liberty and Tyranny. And yet it's one of my favorite. And after I wrote this book, I decided I can't write books like this now. We're not all trying to get PhDs and everything else. We're trying to comprehend and understand and advance the cause. And it was written in 2012. It was written 13 years ago. And I point out the importance, crucial importance of John Locke. The influence of Locke. And on chapter 6, I have John Locke and the nature of man. On chapter 7, the influence of Locke on the founders. I just want to touch on this a little bit so you have a tremendous background on this. John Locke was the most important philosopher to the founders of this country during the revolutionary period. There's no question about it. And there was once a great professor from Yale who actually looked at every piece of public writings at the time that he possibly could, including pamphlets and newspapers and so forth, speeches, and it was Locke. And during the constitutional period, it was Montesquieu. These are great thinkers from the 1500s, from what we call the Enlightenment period. Now, what Locke said in part, he not only underscored the importance of things like property rights and so forth and so on, but no government, including one established by the consent of the governed, has authority to violate man's inalienable rights. And Locke explains that the law of nature exists above all else, and all men are required to obey it, including those who hold public office. And he wrote in part, thus the law of nature stands as an eternal rule to all men, legislators as well as others, legislators as well as others. The rules that they make for other men's actions must, as well as their own and other men's actions, be comfortable to the law of nature, that is, to the will of God, of which that is a declaration, and the fundamental law of nature being the preservation of mankind. No human sanction can be good or valid against it. So the first sentence of the Declaration encapsulates Locke's view of the preeminence of natural law and the right to disobey and indeed throw off a government that abuses it. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them for the separation. The entire purpose of the American Revolution was to throw off a government. And the entire argument was built upon God conveying rights to his children, you. Now, I break this down in this book, example after example. I say, Locke writes, the state of nature has a law of nature to govern it, which obliges everyone, and reason, this is Locke, which is the law, teaches all mankind, who will but consult it, that being all equal and independent, no one ought to harm another in his life, health, liberty, or possessions. For men being all the workmanship of one omnipotent and infinitely wise maker, all the servants of one sovereign master, sent into the world by his order and about his business, and being furnished with like faculties, sharing all in one community of nature, there cannot be supposed any such subordination among us that may authorize us to destroy one another, or if we were made for one another's uses, as the inferior ranks of creatures are for ours. Everyone, as he is bound to preserve himself, and not to quit his station willfully, so by the like reason, when his own preservation comes not in competition, and he goes on. So the founders embraced Locke's vision that all men are blessed by God with inalienable rights. The life, the liberty, health, limb, or goods of another, quote unquote, which they describe this way. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among those are life, liberty, and Levin, in the pursuit of happiness. It is the job of government to preserve those rights. Government doesn't give you those rights. It doesn't create those rights. It's its job to preserve those rights. Want another example? In this book, I give example after example. Again, Locke explains that any government not established by the consent of the governed is illegitimate, and therefore its laws are illegitimate. Nor can a government established by the consent of the people exercise absolute power or surrender its legitimate power to another. Why? For the very reasons we just stated. The laws of nature, and you have your own rights, independent of government. Independent of government. That to secure these rights, says your declaration, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. To do what? To secure these rights. What rights? Natural rights. Unalienable rights. That's what your declaration is talking about. It's really quite stunning, isn't it? It's quite stunning that a United States Senator talks as Tim Kaine did. But here's the problem. This is the real unstated yet real position of the Democrat Party. Now, who's John Locke? He lived from 1632. The Enlightenment, I would guess, is from like the 1500s into the 1600s. Had an enormous influence on the American founding and consequently American society. He did not seek ways to destroy the sovereignty of the individual. He sought to understand and cultivate it. Locke explained the true nature of man, including his acquisition of knowledge and use of intuition, reason, and sensation. It's not necessary to agree with all of Locke's conclusions to celebrate his extraordinary insight. In an essay concerning human understanding published in 1690, which really is a book of sorts, it's an extensive examination of the capacity of the human mind, including its limits. Locke dramatically distinguished his philosophical approach from what I call utopians. For Locke, the individual has value, dignity, and significance. Rather than advance a dogma in search of a fantasy, Locke believed that the individual's mind was worth exploring, as if lecturing modern-day liberals. That's right. He's a brilliant man. Locke carried forward his scrutiny of man's understanding, I'm bouncing around in the book, with an anti-authoritarian approach to civil society and governance. Now keep in mind, he was explicitly rejecting Thomas Hobbes. In other words, there were other philosophers, contemporary and earlier, that he was taking on with his viewpoints, that Montesquieu was taking on with his viewpoints. And no philosopher, quite frankly, has a philosophy that is without some influence by others, either pro or con. By equality, as an example, Locke does not mean equality of outcomes or result. He does not mean conformity. Early in his great book, The Second Treatise of Government, Locke introduces the notion of the individual's God-given inalienable rights, of which all individuals are entitled, and which provide the moral condition for a civil society. Here's what he says. The state of nature has a law of nature to govern it, which obliges everyone in reason, which is that law, teaches all mankind who will but consult it, which I mentioned earlier. Locke observed that men generally get along with each other in the state of nature for their own sake and the sake of the community, although it certainly is not perfect. State of war exists in the state of nature only when one individual violates the laws of nature, that is, the inalienable rights of others. Therefore, although the state of nature is not the violent, fearful condition that people like Hobbes describe, the laws of nature are and can be violated. And so he goes on and on about the laws of nature and nature's God. He goes on about God himself. And of all the philosophers who came before your founders, when they turned to the Declaration of Independence, there were others too, but they mainly turned to him. And Tim Kaine rejects him 100%. Tim Kaine embraces what is a fascistic, Marxist, Islamist, overlaying philosophy, and then condemns what Locke wrote, what others wrote, what your founders believed in, as like Iran. That is sick. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. I guess, you know, the reason I guess I was the first to focus on this last week, my buddy Ted Cruz sent it to me, and I looked at it and said, what the hell is this? And I wanted to give it some national attention. And as you can see, it's gone viral. This Tim Kaine stuff. Posted it on the social sites and hit it on radio. This radio has a ton of influence. And I did it because we need to have this national debate. I'm going to get into another thing here, and there's a lot to do today. Good stuff, substantive-wise. And that is the Democrat Party's gone socialist. They don't believe in capitalism. I keep telling people it's the party of the Marxist Islamists, and it's spreading in that party. So if you reject that, you're in the wrong party. But I want to get into this when we return. I'll be right back. We're coming upon the 250th birthday of the United States, and it has me thinking, what will America look like 250 years from now? My friends at the Heritage Foundation want to know what you think. What policies should America prioritize? What principles should carry us into the decades ahead? As America enters a new golden age, Heritage recognizes that this is the time to take stock and to be intentional about how we shape the future of America. And they can't do it without your input. So please go to heritage.org/LEVIN and let them know what you think is important. Without patriots like you stepping up and speaking up for what you believe in, America as we know it can't survive for another 250 years. Please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/LEVIN. Take the survey on America's future. This survey takes less than 10 minutes to complete, but it is critical for making sure that the America we pass on to future generations is an America we're proud of. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Mark Levin, America's real influencer. Dial in 877-381-3811.
You know, people keep saying the Democrat Party has to moderate, Mr. Producer. Has to moderate. But what if it's more than the base that's been radicalized? What if it's that all the veterans and police officers and firefighters and other patriots who are traditional Democrats don't realize that they're in a distinct minority within the Democrat Party? Or people who think they're centrists or moderates? Or people who are Democrats because it's passed from one generation to the next? Their party has left them, and it left them a long, long time ago, and I'm going to prove it right now over the Daily Caller, the New York Post, other places. A new Gallup poll, Daily Caller, Democrats now like socialism much more than capitalism, new poll shows, by Melissa O'Rourke. An increasingly large share of Democrats view socialism more favorably than capitalism. A troubling new Gallup poll shows, just fresh out. Only 42% of Democrats said they have a positive view of capitalism, compared to 66% who asserted a positive view of socialism, Gallup found. As Democrats seek to redefine their party after the devastating 2024 defeat, the finding indicates the base is increasingly open to the socialist policy ideas promoted by party leaders. I would quibble with that. It's not the base. It's the party, right, Mr. Producer? They're not polling the base, they're polling the party. 42%, that's it, have a positive view of capitalism. 66% have a positive view of socialism. These are Democrats, not just the base. By contrast, 74% of Republicans reported a favorable view of capitalism, with only 14% viewing socialism favorably, according to the survey conducted between August 1 and 20. Among 1,094 U.S. adults. That's the point. Not the base, well beyond the base. Overall, 54% of Americans reported a positive view of capitalism, down from 60% in 2021, and marking the lowest level since Gallup began tracking the question in 2010. This is frightening. Favorable views of socialism increased slightly from 36 to 39% during the same period. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I have to comment on this. Part of the fault is we in the conservative movement. We in the Republican Party. We in TV and radio broadcasting, and especially. We don't take time. I take time to go over these issues. Most of my colleagues do not. They bounce around from headline to headline, trying to squeeze the hell out of a story. I'm just telling you, we have got to do a better job. We in this medium right here. It's called conservative talk radio. It should be called constitutional conservative talk radio, but it's called conservative talk radio. Or even on other platforms, whether it's podcasts or TV, we have got to do a better job of using our platforms in a productive way, instead of just chasing, Epstein and stuff like that. Because we are in a unique position, at least for now. God knows how long it'll last. We're in a unique position to do so. Not just to mock Tim Kaine, although he should be mocked, but to go deep and explain why the problem is, why he's the problem, what his problem is. It's important. Democrats have expressed a more favorable view of socialism than capitalism since 2016, according to Gallup. The shift is evident in New York City, where Democratic Socialist, he's a Marxist, Zoran Mandani won the Democrat primary for mayor. Plans to raise the minimum wage $30, launch a variety of taxpayer-funded programs, including government-run grocery stores, impose higher taxes on what he describes as richer and whiter neighborhoods. He's drawing the endorsement of prominent progressives. The language. Of prominent fellow Marxists, I'll say, such as AOC, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and so forth. And it goes on. So this isn't the base. It isn't the base. You know, even if we win Democrats, we don't win a majority of Democrats. We win enough Democrats, along with independents, to win. So that's the nature, apparently, of the Democrat Party. Economic socialism. It's not because AOC is a genius. Quite the contrary. She's a moron. Or Mandani is a genius. Quite the contrary. He's a racist, bigot, anti-Semite moron. It's that they apparently represent a majority of the party, certainly in a number of areas of the country. Let's keep something in mind. Certainly not exclusively, but the Democrat Party gets most of its power where? At the metropolitan areas. The cities and the inner suburbs. That's where their power base is. That's not where the Republican power base, logically, conversely. But that's where their power base is. And look how these cities elect these radical leftists, one after another after another. Radical leftist prosecutors, radical leftist city council members. So what I'm trying to say is you're still going to hear people say the base of the party, the base. It's not the base. If you can win a 20, 30% of the Democrat Party, 10% of the Democrat Party, and you're Republicans, you're going to win a nationwide election. Still, the overwhelming majority of the Democrat Party voted Democrat. Voted for Kamala Harris. And will vote for the next Democrat. You see my point, Mr. Producer? It's important to get bigger and bigger percentages, which we are, which Donald Trump did. But we didn't come close to winning a majority, let alone a significant majority, let alone any majority of the Democrat Party. My point is not to put down a race where we win landslides. You don't have to win a majority of the Democrat Party for a Republican to win a landslide. That's not my point. You just have to win enough. A small but significant percentage, 10%, 15%. You've got it made. So I think there's a lot of terminology that's being thrown around on radio and TV and other media that is not accurate. That is not accurate. And I think we have to come to grips with this if we're going to be able to overcome it. If we're going to be able to overcome it. That this mentality is not a minority mentality, the base. The base. I think this is why so-called moderates and centrists in the Democrat Party are as popular as the reptile house at the zoo. Or that there's so few of them in many respects. Like in Congress, there's almost no moderate or centrist Democrat in the House or the Senate. They may claim it, but they're not. And we know that. And we know that. And yet people on TV and radio, well, the base of the parties pulling the party. No. No. That may make us feel good to say that. It may make us feel good to say it. But I don't think it's accurate. I really don't. The vast majority of the Democrat Party is okay with socialism. Views it positively. I mean, almost 7 out of 10. That's not the base, that's the party. And less than 50% are supportive of capitalism. That's not the base, that's their party. Which means we have a hell of a big job ahead of us. It also means that President Trump's landslide victory really was incredible. Because the Democrat Party has become more radicalized, much more radicalized since President Reagan won his massive landslides. It also goes to the point where the Democrat Party is increasingly a party of not just immigrants, but new immigrants who come from societies that reject capitalism, that reject it, and have not assimilated into this country. And by the way, it's the rule. There are exceptions. There are great exceptions. But you get my point. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Most of you know by now there is a horrendous video of a 14-time criminal standing over a beautiful young 23-year-old woman who has the bugs in her ear, playing with her iPhone, minding her own business. Did you see this, Mr. Medusa? I had to shut it off. He leans over her with a knife and just stabs her over and over and over again, blood everywhere. The mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina, had asked the press not to say too much because he doesn't want people to be scared or whatever. Of course, the video should be public. People can decide if they want to watch it or not. It's my strong belief, that the media cover-up of what happened on October 7th, for example, the refusal to release the video that was taken by the murderers, the terrorists, has been a grave disservice to we the people and the people of the world to see exactly what we're dealing with. The president has seen it, he has talked about it, and it is burned into his brain. I'm asking the media, the national media, not because it's prurient, it's not. Show it. Show it at 1 a.m. with all kinds of warnings. But show it. Show it. It's almost 50 minutes long. Non-stop. Show it. So the world sees what we, the United States and Israel, are dealing with. I think I heard or read somewhere, and I don't know how accurate it is, that part of this deal for the hostages, alive and dead, is the release of 3,000 more Palestinian prisoners. These are criminals and terrorists. 3,000, Mr. Producer. $3,000 more. They've already released thousands. And some that they released decades ago turned out to lead Hamas. And we have this case this morning in Israel where two Palestinians coming out of Judea and Samaria, the so-called West Bank, murdered 6 individuals on a bus that was packed and wounded 21. 3 of those who were murdered, as they sprayed the bus, they went into the bus and they just started slaughtering people, were rabbis, as it turns out. First responders said when we arrived, we saw people lying unconscious on the road. 2 individuals, including one off-duty IDF soldier, killed the 2 terrorists. Killed them. One rabbi was 25 years old, another was 28, another was 43. But others too. And when you release 3,000 Palestinian prisoners, and you've already released 2,000 or 3,000, unfortunately, you're going to get more of this. But this is the pressure that's being placed on the government over there by the hostage families. You can certainly understand why they would. By the left there, by our government. There's no way in hell we would release 3,000 criminals in exchange for anything. Is there, Mr. Producer? There's no damn way in hell we would. And they've already released several thousand. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
You know, folks, I can't get out of my mind this poor kid, 23-year-old, very petite girl from Ukraine, being butchered, not even knowing what hit her. And when those first stab wounds, so deep, this guy, he like winds up and does it to this little girl, little lady. And poof, gone. A life gone. In a horrific, painful, heinous way. Just gone. For nothing. For nothing. The value of life is just... people are dehumanized. When I listen to these Democrats and they go, most illegal aliens aren't murdering people. What does that have to do with anything? This isn't a numbers game. It's not a numbers game. Somebody lost their life who should have been in prison. 23 years old, petite, I mean, the hell? The media covers it up for the most part. Then when AP writes about it, they talk about it and write about it as if it's MAGA. MAGA? The MAGA's angry. MAGA. I just think, we talk about babies as if they're just fetuses, and it's a right to kill the baby, and we go on and on. Only certain lives matter, like I said, they don't show the video of what happened on October 7th, but they'll have a fake case, a photograph on the front of the New York Times, and everybody will weep over it, and it's fake. President at the Museum of the Bible today said this, cut 4, go.
I just give my love and hope to the family of the young woman who was stabbed this morning or last night in Charlotte by a madman, a lunatic, just got up and started. It's right on the tape. Not really watchable because it's so horrible, but just viciously stabbed. She's just sitting there. So they're evil people. We have to be able to handle that. If we don't handle that, we don't have a country.
And so some people have noted that if the shoe were on the other foot, if this had been some white lunatic who stabbed an innocent, petite, hardworking, poor black girl, that the media would have run with this, and it would be a big deal. And they're not wrong. And it should be a big deal. If a big white guy with 14 convictions did that to a black girl, it should be a very big deal. Just as it should be a very big deal right now on what took place here. And of course, white guys killed too. That's not the point. The point is an almost complete blackout from the media. Some of the media is starting to pick it up because other independent media, particularly on the internet, are highlighting it. And it's hard, if you watch the video, to ignore this. I don't mean ignore the video, I ignore the savagery that took place. I mean, it's horrendous. And so on CNN today, if CNN wants to know why nobody watches CNN, it's because it's horrendous too. It's full of very stupid people with agendas who give voice to the reprobates, the maniacs, the miscreants, and the malcontents. Brian Stelter was removed from CNN and he's back. It's like a bad hemorrhoid that some of you liberals get. Cut 3, go.
The energy from pro-Trump activists. They picked up on this video from local news.
Okay, so there you go. How can you tie it into Trump and his people, you see? Not the press. Press hasn't done anything wrong here. Not the quote-unquote system that lets a barbarian like this out, where he has committed horrendous crimes before, but nothing like this, of course. His own mother said he should never have been let out of prison. His own mother said he was so dangerous she had to remove him from her house. So if you focus on it, and you focus over the fact that the media have done damn near nothing about it, then you must be a Trump supporter. Yeah, maybe that's right. Go ahead.
Like the times when civil rights groups have raised attention about police-involved shootings. In this case, it is Trump-aligned influencers who are
That's enough. That's enough. The Democrat Party's made clear where it stands. The American media have made clear where they stand. They're on the side of the terrorists when it comes to Israel. They're on the side of the criminal when it comes to the innocent. Let's be honest about these things. The open borders and all the mayhem and crime and brutality, the rape, the servitude, all this taking place, that's their policy. That's their policy. I don't know how people of goodwill, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, people who are moral and ethical and of goodwill can support this party or this media. I don't know how they do it. I just don't know how they do it. It's not a matter of, well, I don't like the way Trump talks. I don't like some of his, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about good versus evil. Good versus evil. And it's an evil political party that conducts itself the way the Democrat Party is conducting itself. It's evil. Evil. It's not even about what they say. It's about what they fail to do. This guy should not have been let out, and that girl would be alive. It's that simple. And God knows how many people are dying all over the country, but especially in the inner city, because of the same unbelievable, moronic left-wing policies. And there, the majority of crime is done by young black men against young black men. And even that doesn't push the left in this country to say, hey, cut it out. No. Trump offers the National Guard to back up the local cops. Of course these mayors aren't going to take it. Why? Because they're the ones who have defanged the local cops. They're the ones who have cut funding, have cut personnel on local law enforcement. I love it. One of these guys said, why don't you just give us more money to hire cops or some kind? What do you mean? They're slashing budgets for cops. It's not about getting more money. Ideologically, that's their policy. That's their policy. It's not about more money. But Trump, Tammy Duckworthless, deface the nation. Trump declared war on Chicago. They bring these people on because they know what they're going to say. And they want to promote it. Really sick. And Trump's a dictator, you see. We're trying to help people. We're trying to deport illegal aliens. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
When was the last time you bragged about your wireless company? Like, did you know my wireless company gave away 1,000 American flags to deserving vets and forgave $10 million in veteran debt? Did you know my wireless company raised almost $500,000 to help prevent veteran suicide? In other words, when your wireless company is Pure Talk, there's a whole lot to brag about. You can even brag about the coverage you get with Pure Talk, a 5G network that is insanely fast, dependable, and secure. And you can definitely brag about how much money you save with Pure Talk. Unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Just $25 a month, saving the average family over $1,000 a year. It's time to switch to my favorite wireless company, Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin and save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch today. Pure Talk, wireless worth bragging about. You know, it's always a pleasure to have our friend Zuhdi Jasser on the program, and he's president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, one of my dear friends, and a very, very courageous man who always tries to do the right thing. He's a medical doctor. He was a commander in the Navy. Great patriot. Zuhdi Jasser, how are you, my friend?
Wonderful, Mark. It's so great to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I had no idea you're running for Congress. Tell us about this.
Yes, sir. This is a district that should be in play. And, listen, as you know, I'm all about service. I love my country. And in part of renewing America's promise as we enter the 250th anniversary of America is for people to step up. You know, the far left has had their farm team. And you and I, I've stepped into the fire, whether it be against radical Islam, whether it be against the medical establishment during COVID. I kept my clinic open. I protested the shuttering of businesses and freedoms that were taken away in the name of health care, but actually was all about a exploitation of a virus in order to take away our rights. And we're finally getting a course correction with President Trump. And the Trump movement can't be done alone. He has a thin majority in the House. and districts like the 4th District in Arizona can be won by conservatives. It has had a missing in action Congressman Greg Stanton, who is running the DCCC, but really hasn't, cared about our constituents. Actually, a couple of days ago, Stanton referred to illegals as his constituents, which is why he was at the border. It's just absurd. And our promise of America is what my parents came seeking: free markets, individual freedoms, entrepreneurship. And it's why I served the Navy. And, listen, as you know, I am able to sort of get away from the DEI nonsense, the identity politics, and quickly hone in on what the issues are, whether it's declaring the Muslim Brotherhood a terror organization or representing small businesses and trying to get socialization of healthcare and other aspects of the extreme left out of the daily lives of Americans is what they care about in our district and across the country.
What major towns are in this district?
It includes all of Tempe, Mesa, and a little bit of Chandler and some of Phoenix and South Scottsdale. It's in Maricopa County. People can go to my website at z4az.com. And, as you know, campaigns are expensive. We're hitting our first quarter. I was the only first-time candidate last cycle with other perennial candidates, and we almost won the primary. And this time we'd like to clear the field with this quarter that's ending in the next few weeks. And, it's just amazing with the response we've gotten. People are so thirsty for candidates that are conservatives, but yet are all about America first and securing the border and protecting our families from the drugs and the crime and other things that the far left has just sort of left us to waste.
Well, I want to give you my most enthusiastic, full-throated support. You would be a fantastic Republican nominee. Better than that, you'd be a fantastic congressman to counter some of the kooks like the Tlaibs and Omars, but not just them, other kooks in the House of Representatives. And we will post your campaign site on my social sites. And before we're finished, you can repeat what it is, Zuhdi Jasser. Now, what kind of district is this? You say it's a marginal district. Is it more Democrat than Republican? What is it?
Well, it actually has more Republican registrants than Democrats, 32 to 30%, but 38% independent. So, a candidate like me, who's a small business guy, have been running a primary care practice for over almost 30 years here in district, can really reach. I can't tell you how positive the response is, both from Democrats and Republicans, for my candidacy. And just looking at the support initially, it's really the business community that's come out and support, and also folks that know that I've got the courage to stand up to the establishment, be it in healthcare or in government. I mean, it is just a crime that Arizona has a blue Democrat governor who's been useless, has 2 senators that are blue and also useless and missing in action. And I think if we flip this district here in Maricopa County, we can send a message that Arizona is going to be red again, and America will have a much larger majority in Congress to continue the Trump revolution.
So again, if people want to help you, just slowly, because there were a lot of Z's in this, tell us where they go.
Our website is z4az.com. Just 4 letters. Z, the digit 4, az.com.
And AZ for Arizona. So Z for Zudi, number 4, AZ for Arizona.com. I hope you Levinites out there will give him your support. This guy would be a fantastic congressman. I see one of your senators is a complete jackass leftist, and I'm not even talking about the astronaut. He's bad enough. Wants to be president of the United States. Is that right, Zuhdi Jasser?
Well, this is why we want to flip this district, is that, it'll start to remind Arizonans what real leadership, courage is all about, what our principles are in Arizona, why securing the border is important, and that it's not just about having only been an astronaut. And I've served also. Service is important, but it's about remembering what the values are of our families and not kowtowing to the Chinas of the world and others like our senator and others have done.
So it's our friend Zuhdi Jasser. You listen to this program, it's the 4th Congressional District in Arizona. And you can go to Z for Zudi, Z4, the number 4, AZ, Arizona, Z4AZ.com. If you forget, you can check out my various social sites. All right, Zudi, we're going to have you back. When is this Republican primary?
It's next summer in July, end of July, early August. And, I can't tell you enough how campaigns now to flip seats are national. As much as, yes, politics is local, in order to win these and marginalize the Ilhan Omars and others, their farm teams are winning because our farm teams need to have better national support. So God bless you for having me. And anyone who wants to support our movement, with the work I've done, not only nationally, but globally to protect our country, and I want to keep doing it in Congress.
No, you'd be unbelievable. You'd be unbelievable. All right, my friend. Thank you for coming on. God bless you.
God bless you, Mark. Thank you. Anytime.
You bet. Man, wouldn't he be a great congressman, Rich? Oh, my God. Meanwhile, look at this. Mandani. New York City mayoral favorite Mandani vows to end city investments in Israeli bonds if elected. Now here, we just finished with Zuhdi Jasser, who supports the state of Israel because he supports America, too. And here we have Mandani, who hates the state of Israel and hates America. I've told you before, they go hand in hand. Even the isolationist, fake MAGA, cretins. They pretend they like America. They hate America. They're constantly trashing our history. They're trashing our greatest generation in World War II. They're now trashing the president, stabbing him in the back. If elected mayor of New York, Democratic candidate, a.k.a. Marxist, Islamist, Jew-hater, millionaire, Zohran Mandani intends to end the city's investments in Israeli government bonds. The one country, you see. We should not have a fund that invests in violations of international law, he told CBS News. The current controller's approach, as he applied it with Israeli bonds, is the right approach. When asked whether he would also divest from private companies that had business ties to Israel, Mandani, who is leading in the polls and supports the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, said the priority was addressing direct municipal involvement. This guy is the face, ready, of Hamas. That's what he is. Now, he can try and hide now, but he was out of the closet before. That's what he is. I'll be right back. When was the last time you bragged about your wireless company? Like, did you know my wireless company gave away 1,000 American flags to deserving vets and forgave $10 million in veteran debt? Did you know my wireless company raised almost $500,000 to help prevent veteran suicide? In other words, when your wireless company is Pure Talk, there's a whole lot to brag about. You can even brag about the coverage you get with Pure Talk, a 5G network that is insanely fast, dependable, and secure. And you can definitely brag about how much money you save with Pure Talk. Unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Just $25 a month, saving the average family over $1,000 a year. It's time to switch to my favorite wireless company, Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin and save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch today. Pure Talk, wireless worth bragging about.
He's driving the media mad. Mark Levin, call in with your outrage. 877-381-3811.
The media. What media? We don't have a real press in this country. We have a Pravda. We have an Al Jazeera. It's not a real press. These are ideological activists and mouthpieces for the Democrat Party and the further left. That's all it is. It's all it is. It's all it is. I did an entire program here on this, on Blaze, and on Fox. What is it? This auto pen, how in fact it is unconstitutional. Spent a lot of time on going through the specifics of this and the history of why presidents were required to sign legislation and why they used to fly jets overseas to get it to a president, a bill, so he could sign them. Now this from the New York Post. President Biden's sweeping clemency grants during his final days in office caused concern inside the West Wing and Justice Department about how to ensure his wishes were accurately implemented. And it's unclear whether Biden himself was consulted before thousands of pardons were announced, internal emails obtained exclusively by the New York Post show. Now, the messages indicate that Biden orally approved communications for inmates jailed for crack cocaine offenses on January 11. But his auto pen signature wasn't affixed to 3 documents listing about 2,500 recipients until the morning of January 17. The debate over who exactly to include in the mass pardons and how to modify their sentences came to a head late on the night of January 16. Then White House Staff Secretary Steph Feldman, a key gatekeeper of the presidential auto pen, wrote to West Wing lawyers that she needed evidence Biden had consented before she authorized a mechanical signature on one of the most sweeping acts of clemency in American presidential history. I'm going to need email from Deputy Assistant to the President Rosa Poe on original chain confirming President signs off on the specific documents when they are ready, Feldman wrote to 5 other Biden aides at 9:16 p.m. 6 minutes later, Deputy White House Counsel Tisha Dixon, one of the email recipients, forwarded the message to Michael Posada, Chief of Staff to the White House Counsel's office. Michael, thoughts on how to handle this? Dixon asked, adding in reference to the documents authorizing clemency, that is, pardons. He doesn't review the warrants. He doesn't review them. Okay, talk to Steph, Posada replied to Dixon at 10:06 p.m. We will just need something from Rosa once the documents are ready, confirming that the 21 people commuted to home confinement are who the president signed off on in the document titled X. And the number of individuals listed in the document titled Y are those with crack powder disparities who the president intended to commute. Basically, something from Rosa making clear that the documents accurately reflect his decision. If you can give me a blurb whenever they are ready to suggest to Rosa, I can pass it along. The mass clemency was announced hours later at 4:59 a.m. It's 4:59 in the morning. The exchange took place well outside Biden's known regular working schedule. With White House aides leaking to media outlets months earlier, the Democrat was at his best between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. on any given day. Ladies and gentlemen, this is 5 in the morning. Poe had indicated in a prior email that Biden told multiple officials on January 11 he wanted to, quote, commute the sentences of those with crack powder sentencing, those with disparities, who were determined by DOJ not to have a high likelihood of recidivism, as determined by standards set by the First Step Act. Now, keep in mind, I told you earlier in this article that the DOJ had no insight into what the hell was going on. It's unclear whether Biden actually gave the final go-ahead as Feldman requested January 16, but the email suggests that aides instead incorporated Poe's protestations of what he intended to do. Excuse me, not protestations, attestations, meaning what he wanted to do. 3 separate clemency warrant documents grouped the inmates impacted by the clemency grant, with most due to be released this past February and others having their sentences shortened but not entirely curtailed. Now, the ex-president's public remarks since then indicate he was not aware that only 3 documents were required for the roughly 2,500 commutations. He told the New York Times in July that AutoPen was used to sign clemency warrants, quote, because there were a lot of them. In December 2024, Biden issued a similar mercy grant to about 1,500 who had been released on home confinement during the COVID pandemic, an action requiring just a single signed document. Presidential approval for the specific documents authorizing clemency matters in part because some grantees were not given full commutations. Some more serious offenders had their sentences shortened, but not completely set aside. The most restrictive category, for example, listed 19 people who had their sentences reduced to 350 months behind bars, equivalent to more than 29 years. But there were surprising aberrations in which violent criminals were included in the near immediate clemency grants, including Russell McIntosh, 51, whose crimes included the 1999 murder of a North Carolina woman who threatened to report him to police and her 2-year-old child. He cleared his entire record. The documents reviewed by the Post do not show that aides countermanded Biden's wishes, but provided additional context and names of officials involved in interpreting the then president's will. By the way, that 2-year-old baby, Mr. Producer, was shot in the back of the head. I wonder what Brian Stelter thinks about that. I wonder if he'll open his big, fat, food-filled mouth and comment on that. Probably not, because it doesn't involve Trump and MAGA. Legal experts said the auto pen documents hold full legal force, but must accurately reflect the president's orders. No, I'm a legal expert. In fact, I'm a constitutional expert, and I strongly disagree with that. Strongly. In any event, it goes on for another couple pages, and you already have the gist of it, so I don't need to get any further into it. This is a big damn scandal, and you know what? The media could care less. Absolutely does not give a damn. Because remember, they conspired on the cover-up of Biden. They conspired on Russia collusion. That's why they don't give a damn about any of this stuff. Anything to take out Trump or a conservative, anything. They're involved in all this. They're not a media. They're not media. They're not a press. They're not journalists. They use the First Amendment to advance an agenda, and they know I'm damn well right, but they're never going to admit it. Never. It's incredible, really. And here we pretend that there's something other than they are. We don't, but the others do. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
When was the last time you bragged about your wireless company? Like, did you know my wireless company gave away 1,000 American flags to deserving vets and forgave $10 million in veteran debt? Did you know my wireless company raised almost $500,000 to help prevent veteran suicide? In other words, when your wireless company is Pure Talk, there's a whole lot to brag about. You can even brag about the coverage you get with Pure Talk, a 5G network that is insanely fast, dependable, and secure. And you can definitely brag about how much money you save with Pure Talk. Unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Just $25 a month, saving the average family over $1,000 a year. It's time to switch to my favorite wireless company, Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin and save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch today. Pure Talk. Wireless worth bragging about. Supreme Court. Two good rulings from the court today. You probably haven't heard about this. CNN, Supreme Court allows Trump to keep FTC commissioner off payroll for now. See, this is the way buffoons write and think. The Supreme Court allowed it? No, the president had this power. The Supreme Court recognized it. Chief Justice Roberts on Monday allowed President Trump to remove a member of the Federal Trade Commission for now, a temporary win for the White House as it extends control over independent agencies throughout the federal government. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here's my question. Where are independent agencies in the Constitution? There aren't any. There is a strong argument, I've made it over the years, that independent agencies are unconstitutional. Why? What are they independent from, Mr. Producer? All the other branches of government, right? The Constitution creates how many branches, America? 3. So what's an independent agency? Independent of what? Independent of us. This is a representative republic. That's what it's supposed to be. So you have an independent agency. Now, this was really the mindset of the so-called self-identified early progressives, a.k.a. American Marxists. Why? So they could create these entities, pretend that there's experts on them, who are independent and objective. We know that's a lie. The Democrats always stuff them with kooks. So they wouldn't be influenced by us. The short-term order, known as an administrative stay, is designed to give the justices more time to review Trump's emergency request to fire Rebecca Kelly Slaughter, who served on the FTC since 2018. Roberts handles emergency appeals rising from the Federal Court of Appeals in Washington. By itself, his order does not signal whether Trump will ultimately win his appeal in Slaughter's case. No, but it does say we better slow this down. We got to think about this. Roberts' order Slaughter's legal team to respond to Trump's emergency appeal by September 15. Roberts' order, which offered no explanation, doesn't have to order an explanation. You just said it's temporary. Will allow Trump to keep Slaughter out of work until the High Court resolves the emergency case. Now, the divided federal appeals court, they don't tell you that it was a panel of 3, and 2 of them were appointed by Biden. 2-1. That CNN doesn't have the capacity to do. A divided federal appeals court had ordered Slaughter to be reinstated while the litigation over her firing plays out. The administrator responded with an emergency appeal at the Supreme Court. Trump fired Slaughter and another Democrat in March off the FTC. The agency enforces antitrust and consumer protection laws. Its 5 board members, appointed by the president, serve 7-year terms, and no more than 3 commissioners can be of the same political party. Slaughter told CNN that she respects the court's decision and intends to see the case through to the end. Now, Trump first placed Slaughter on the board in 2018. Former President Joe Biden nominated her for a second term. See, they don't explain how that works. So here you have a board, so-called independent commission, and it has a certain number of Democrats and Republicans by statute. And what probably happened is Trump had to make a deal to get, let's say, 2 Republicans on for 1 Democrat, or 1 for 1, and that's why he appointed her. This happens with the federal district courts, too. But CNN's not going to explain it to you. No media outlet's going to explain it to you. I'll explain it to you. Federal district court ordered her reinstatement in July. Of course it did. It's a Washington, D.C. court, Washington, D.C. appellate panel, 2 Biden appointees. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? There you go. Supreme Court lifts limits on roving immigration patrols in Los Angeles area. Roving immigration patrols. They want you to make it sound like it's Nazi Germany, you see. Roving patrols in the streets. But NBC News sucks, that's why. Like I said, it's not media. Democrats, leftists, activists, dressed up as journalists. The Supreme Court lifts limits on roving immigration patrols. And now, remember this kook left-wing judge in L.A.? Remember she said this is nothing but racist? These are ICE groups, patrols going into various minority neighborhoods. I don't know. Where do you find illegal aliens, Mr. Producer? Do you find them in Beverly Hills for the most part? Decision to grant an emergency request was filed by the Trump administration and puts on hold the July 11 ruling by Los Angeles-based U.S. District Judge Mame Iwusi Mensah Frimpong. Attorney General Mandani welcomed the decision, of course, and she's right. They're doing a great job over there, Justice, despite people trashing her from time to time. They're litigating extremely well over there. Constitution's Fourth Amendment, which protects against unlawful searches and seizures, should protect everyone, said Sotomayor. See, it's sick. We have long-standing federal immigration laws on deportation. And in order to find illegal aliens, you got to find illegal aliens. They don't raise their, I'm over here. I'm in the Home Depot. I'm over here. I'm at the 7-Eleven. I'm over here. Over here, McDonald's. So they have to go to the 7-Eleven and McDonald's and the Home Depot. They shouldn't be able to do that. Okay, where should they go? Nowhere, right? Nowhere. And then they go on quoting the American Criminal Liberties Union and all the lefties, because after all, it's NBC Snooze. And what they won't tell you is what the law is. What they won't tell you is the basis for this. What they won't tell you is why the Supreme Court really was compelled to do what it did if it was going to follow the law and the Constitution. I told you as soon as this judge issued this order, she's out of her mind and that it'll be overturned. Well, there you go. Both came true. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-38... You know it now, don't you? Didn't we fight a civil war as a nation, Mr. Producer? Well, I want to tell you what I'm posting now, America. Sanctuary cities are unconstitutional. We fought a civil war making that clear. So I should say sanctuary states and cities. I thought we fought a civil war making that clear. Cities cannot defy federal constitutional authority. And let me add states just to make sure Newsom, who's a little slow on the upkick, he's actually a very stupid man. Very stupid man. Have you ever really listened to this guy talk? He's a very stupid man. States and cities cannot defy federal constitutional authority that is clearly granted to the national government, in this case, the enforcement of federal immigration law. They cannot, stick with me, they cannot, just nullify. And I've done shows on this. Federal law. They cannot nullify federal law. So I'm going to posit that for the 4 billionth time. I will post it in the clearest terms possible so even Newsom might be able to comprehend it. We'll give him a bouncing ball to follow it. But that's the bottom line. Now, why am I even talking about that? Well, we have this from the Constipated News Network. Immigration enforcement operations are ramping up in Chicago and Boston, marking the latest escalation between the Trump administration and Democratic-led cities that limit cooperation with federal immigration authorities. The Department of Homeland Security today announced Operation Midway Blitz, aimed at targeting criminal illegal aliens who flocked to Chicago and Illinois because they knew Governor Pritzker and his sanctuary policies would protect them and allow them to roam free on American streets. I'm a big fan of this, Noam. I really am. Of the secretary. The heightened rhetoric from President Donald Trump. See, it's always, you see how these things are always written? You see how these things are always written? Not the heightened rhetoric from those who call him a dictator. They say he's militarizing. That sort of, no. It's Trump. And his top officials aligns with how the White House plans to push forward its aggressive agenda. So taking convicted criminals off the street is an aggressive agenda aimed at undocumented immigrants, in other words, illegal aliens. Ongoing arrests in Chicago are expected to expand as a federal presence builds up in weeks. A weeks-long phased approach, according to officials familiar with the plans who stressed it's still in flux. Leakers, saboteurs. Operations in Boston and Chicago are modeled after the June immigration sweeps in L.A. First of all, let me step back and tell you this. Despite the way this is written in a propagandistic way, this puts a smile on my face. It really does. That our immigration laws are being enforced. Those laws exist. You don't just get to nullify them because you don't agree with them. So people are here illegally. They're specifically going after those who've committed additional offenses. But if they find people who are here illegally, they're not going to say, all right, you can stay. What was it? I think it was Karl Rove I heard say today, I'll have to paraphrase, something to the effect that, no, it was the CNN data guy who said that obviously now the president is 20-some points under when it comes to the support of Hispanics. And the way the discussion went, I think with Carl and others, was people want the criminals removed, but they don't like the enforcement of the other, that we need people to do jobs that other people won't do. And I'm going, wait a minute. America, we're talking about tens of millions of illegal aliens. Is everybody now taking the position every establishment, Democrat and Republican, that they should all stay? Is that the position? That they should all stay because of a poll? And I'm not picking on him per se. I think this attitude is widespread, as a matter of fact. And I don't know how it's picking on him anyway by trying to restate what he said. I'm just disagreeing with it. The escalating actions also followed a massive raid last week at a Hyundai plant in Georgia that, while not in a sanctuary city, previews forthcoming work operations. Again, a big smile on my face. You can expect action in most sanctuary cities across the country, Tom Homan said, decrying as problem areas the next targets of the sweeping nationwide immigration enforcement agenda that helped propel Trump to a second term, but Americans largely oppose. Are we going to have laws or not? Are we going to enforce laws or not? Do you know Americans largely oppose the Internal Revenue Service? Do you ever hear them write about that, Mr. Producer? The Internal Revenue Service that Americans largely oppose. The federal income tax that Americans largely oppose. By the way, the open borders under Biden that Americans largely opposed. Did any of that matter to anybody? No, it didn't. Democrat-led cities are bracing for the Trump administration to decide over the next day or two whether to further deploy National Guard troops to crack down on violent crime. Well, as I pointed out here and over the weekend, we deployed National Guard troops to integrate our schools. Why wouldn't we have National Guard troops protect our citizens in many of the same communities? Well, that's different. And, of course, if these mayors were doing their job, none of this would be necessary. DHS blamed Boston Mayor Michelle Wu for sanctuary policies that not only attract and harbor criminals, but also place those public safety threats above the interests of law-abiding American citizens. Is that even in dispute? No, I don't think so. Of course, it's not in dispute. It's the truth. And so the Democrats are opposed to all of this, you see. And look, if you want crime-ridden cities, if you want your kids to be largely illiterate, uneducated, because they oppose school choice too, if you want jobs taken by foreigners who just walk into the country, assuming they even take jobs, if you want your tax-paying money to go to illegal aliens, if you want entitlement programs drained like Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare by people who shouldn't be on the rolls, then vote Democrat. It's that simple. There you go. Vote Democrat. It's that simple. If you want Venezuelan drug boats shipping crap into our country, vote Democrat. Or support Rand Paul. What do you mean, Mark? Rand Paul attacked J.D. Vance when J.D. Vance said words to the effect that he was glad that that ship was blown out of the water, and more will be with these drug pushers, the drug cartels. And Rand Paul took offense. He said, killing people like this without due process. Due process? Due process? Hey, fellas on the boat with the drugs and the weapons, can you wait? We want to take you to court. Due process. What does due process have to do with it? They're gang members trying to get drugs into the United States of America. They're on a boat. It also turns out, ladies and gentlemen, they're part of an axis of drug pushing into the United States, among other places, where they're taking the money, they're divvying it up between Venezuela, Hezbollah, and Iran. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? That's right. And so this is why the Secretary of State wants this done, among other people. The President of the United States, of course. This is why J.D. Vance wants it done, too. So Rand Paul goes on with his knucklehead view. And I guess we're supposed to capture them and throw them in jail. Is that, by the way, is that realistic? We're not talking about criminals, quote unquote. We're talking about people who are using drugs to destroy our country. The communist Chinese, the Iranians, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Venezuelans, Mexican drug cartel. I mean, what is this? Crazy, isn't it? Jerry Nadler. He's retiring because he's afraid some young communist is going to run against him, and he's an old fat communist. Cut 17. Errol Lewis is questioning him. Who's Errol Lewis? Who the hell knows? Cut 17. Go.
You are an attorney, Fordham Law School graduate. You've made a specialty of fighting for civil liberties and constitutional rights. What parts of the Constitution in particular, do you think are most in need of defense right now?
Well, a number of them. One is civil liberties.
That's not the right question, Earl. My question is, weren't you part of the gang that said the Constitution's illegitimate because it was written by white slaveholders? You and Tlaib? Have you noticed, and I pointed out 1 billion times, haven't I? Have you noticed the very people who've trashed the framers of the Constitution, who've trashed them up and down, year after year, trashed them in our textbooks, trashed them on TV, slaveholders, committed genocide, on and on and on. This Constitution's written for a white majority. How many times have we heard this? It's in my book, American Marxism. I quote after quote after quote these morons. And then this guy, Errol Lewis, let's start at the top. Listen to what Errol Lewis says about our precious Constitution. Go ahead.
You are an attorney, Fordham Law School graduate. You've made a specialty of fighting for civil liberties and constitutional rights. What parts of the Constitution in particular do you think are most in need of defense right now?
Well, a number of them.
A number of them? You mean that Constitution? Oh, yeah, a number of them? See how sick these people are, America? Go ahead.
Liberties. I mean, they're going the way they're going after immigrants. The
way the president's going after immigrants is actually quite humane. If you don't trust me, go DuckDuck or Google or whatever, Bing, and check out Dwight Eisenhower. Check it out. Considered a moderate president, a tremendous general, a great patriot. They removed almost every illegal immigrant in this country in a 6-month period. By boat, by train, by plane, by bus. And the United States military was given the job to oversee it. He issued a military order, and he gave a general the responsibility for getting it done. Was he a dictator? Was he Hitler? No, he defeated Hitler. Oh, don't tell Tucker. And now Nadler and his friend waving around the Constitution. These people on the left, they're just pathetic. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Now listen to me. Now the Democrats want to shut down the government. They're going to do everything they can to shut it down. They're going to have some help by the debt enders. I've told you before, the only way to fix the debt, and I mean this, is to have a convention of states. A convention of states. Because Congress is incapable of fixing it. Even the 7 or 8 or 12 or 14 are going to insist on cutting. They don't have the votes. They don't have the votes. They never have the votes. Either they're bad politicians, or as I say, Congress can't fix Congress. So, the Democrats want to shut it down because they want to damage the midterm chances for the Republicans, and they want to damage Trump. They're not interested in fiscal responsibility because they're fiscally irresponsible. That's right. They're They're the inventors of the Ponzi scheme on a massive scale. So they're not interested in balancing budgets and cutting spend. No. They want to shut it down. Now, I don't have a problem with it, but I'm not running for office, and I don't want to turn the government over to these nut jobs. Here's Robert Garcia speaking of nut jobs. This guy's a punk. He's a reprobate, and he's a menace. And there he is on MSLSD yesterday. Same with them. Cut 18, go.
Now we have a looming fight over government funding. Are Democrats going to move to let the government shut down?
I think Democrats have got to be tough and do whatever it takes to stop the Donald Trump agenda. And look, I think Donald Trump right now is proving that every day it's another march to authoritarianism. It's another day where he rolls back democracy.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, let's just stop. Donald Trump has a fantastic record in the Supreme Court of the United States where they bring these emergency appeals. It's not perfect, but it's fantastic. And he has a fantastic record in winning cases when they came after him. Speaking of authoritarian, police state, fascism, dictatorship, when they tried to destroy him before he got reelected. And so, what do they mean, authoritarian? What are they talking about? He takes his cases to the court. He loses, he loses. He wins, he wins. When he wins, it's because the Supreme Court gives it the seal of approval. And then they start attacking the court. Then their judges start attacking the court. And they continue with their claptrap. Have you noticed? So who's the authoritarian? The lower court judges that are way, way out of control? Yes, it's them. Go ahead.
Doing with the budget right now as it relates to essentially picking and choosing what he wants to fund. Democrats can't play that game. We have got to stand tough and push back. And I think the government, we know where we're headed. We have to stand tall. What are we going to do? Pass a budget and allow Donald Trump essentially?
First of all, you're a bunch of intellectual midgets. You'll never stand tall. Go ahead.
He wants to fund. So I think in this moment, I hope that we've learned our lessons from what happened the last time, where unfortunately, as a Congress...
What does that mean? What does all this mean, all this gobbledygook? They shut down the government. What's going to happen? Donald Trump's suddenly going to become one of them? As for him withholding funds and so forth and so on, the court has been upholding this. And what happened, of course, is so much of the money they were trying to push out the door after the election, so much of the money they were pushing out to their political friends to the tune of billions of dollars. You remember all this, America? They're pushing it out to countries, the weirdest type of money, the programs, the most perverse type of programs. And he's tried to stop a lot of it, and the court has upheld a lot of his efforts to stop a lot of it. So what is this guy talking about? What is it that they plan to do? Shut down the government. Where's their blueprint? When it comes to securing the border, they open the border. When it comes to deporting illegal aliens, especially criminals, they obstruct it. They sabotage it. When it comes to kids getting a good education, they don't believe in it. When it comes to protecting our cities, they don't believe in that. The hell do these clowns believe in? We'll be right back.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
Headline, The Guardian, which of course is a crap newspaper. Trump attacks Tom Hanks after West Point cancels event honoring actor. Donald Trump launched a vitriolic attack against Tom Hanks for supposedly being destructive and woke after one of America's most beloved actors was snubbed without much explanation by West Point last week. Let me tell you what all these reporters know. All of them. He's not a nice guy. I was shocked. I had a gentleman drive me from the Newark airport all the way to Virginia. It was a 5-hour drive. Very nice guy. I didn't know him. And no, nobody paid for it. I paid for it because I couldn't get a flight. But that's a whole other story. And he starts telling me about people he's driven, all kinds of famous people and so forth and so on. And I said to him, who was the worst? And obviously, you know what he told me, Mr. Producer? Hanks. Now, I'm not going to get into specifics, but it was bad. He doesn't treat the little people very well. And everybody knows it, particularly the little people that have to deal with him, the drivers and this, that, and the other. I know, it's shocking to people. Wait a minute, he got 1,200 Oscars? That's not possible. Good liberal? Backs Democrats? Well, from what this guy told me, it's pretty well known. And he felt the brunt of it. And if push ever comes to shove, Tom, I'll be more than happy to publicly state what he said. But Trump is right on about this. And why the hell would West Point give him an award anyway? Now, we know what movies he was in. Trump wrote, our greatest West Point, getting greater all the time, has smartly canceled the award ceremony for actor Tom Hanks. Important move. We don't need destructive woke recipients getting our cherished American awards. Hopefully the Academy Awards and other fake award shows will review their standards and practices in the name of fairness and justice. Watch their dead rating surge. Hanks have been scheduled to receive the 2025 Sylvania Thayer Award later this month for service and accomplishments in the national interest. Well, I don't know what he did in the national interest. He got the Presidential Medal of Freedom, Mr. Producer? Inducted into the honorary member in the U.S. Army's Ranger Hall of Fame. This is for being his acting, I guess. Forrest Gump. And Commander Ernie Krause in Greyhound. I don't know what that's all about. But I do know what the gentleman told me. He had no reason to tell me anything. And he told me a lot. It wasn't very pleasant, just so you know. I don't mean prurient or anything like that. It just wasn't nice. In fact, was mean as hell. Right, Tommy? Right, Tommy? All right, let's take some calls here. Let us go to Mark Brookfield. Excuse me, Mark in Brookfield, Missouri. I got it. The great KCMO. Go.
Hey, about 2 hours ago, I was standing
I
on my
remember
back
you, Mark.
watching Manifest. Well, no, I was watching Monroe Doctrine fly over my head. BT
Say that
bomber
again?
I was watching Monroe Doctrine fly over my head. A B-2 bomber heading for Whiteman Air Force Base.
Yeah. Now, the Monroe Doctrine, ladies and gentlemen, was a doctrine that was developed by Secretary of State before he was president, James Monroe. And the doctrine has been changed over the course of the decades, but the bottom line is the position of the Monroe Doctrine is that anything that happens in our hemisphere is our business. It's our business. And that we have every right to intervene on behalf of or against forces in our hemisphere to protect our country. That's essentially the Monroe Doctrine. Go ahead, Mark.
And then I was thinking about Manifest Destiny and...
Well, of course, the left today attacks Manifest Destiny, which is kind of funny, given Hollywood is in one of those territories, actually a state now, where Manifest Destiny mattered when we went to war with Mexico to get so much of the West. And they'll go, well, you can't do that, indigenous land, blah, 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 blah. Well, then get your ass the hell out of California. But there they are. Go right ahead.
Well, I think Manifest Destiny leads into Israel, and we ought to be back in Israel with everything we've got.
You know, sir, I'm going to tell you something. You're really on to a very important point. One of my heroes is a pastor in San Antonio, Texas, in a mega church called Cornerstone. His name is John Hagee. John Hagee gave a sermon yesterday. Our friends Vanessa and Charlie said, you need to check out this sermon. Two of our bestest friends. And so I'm sitting in the chair and I play it. for over an hour. And tears are coming down my cheeks. Pastor John Hagee gave one of the most passionate, brilliant, biblically historical commentaries I've ever heard in my life. And I posted it. And I hope you people check it out. I don't care what your faith is. It doesn't matter. God is going to take care of John Hagee, as John Hagee has taken care of so many. I really believe it. I really believe he was sent here for a reason. And this is a man several decades ago who formed Christians United for Israel, as he was standing what was called back then the Wailing Wall, now the Western Wall. And he felt God speak to him as spirit. John Hagee is not a crazy man. He's not a snake oil salesman. This is the real deal. He's the real deal. And I would encourage you to listen to that sermon. I posted it. Maybe, Mr. Producer, you can move it up. I don't know if you're able to do that on there. But let's move it up to right under the permanent one. And I hope you people will check it out. I really do. Because, Mark, you'll see that what you say is so true. And you did a fantastic job of saying it. But, folks, you got to listen to Pastor Hagee. You got to listen to this man. He is just special. He's very special. And thank you for your call, my friend. All right, let's continue. Let us go to Anna, Savannah, Georgia, the great WTKS. How are you, Anna? Yellow. Anna. How do you spell Anna backwards, Mr. Producer? Let's go to Bob Winson. Excuse me, Bob in Winson, Virginia, XM Satellite. Bob, how are you? How do you spell Bob backwards?
I'm great. I'm great, Mr. Levin. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. Call me Mark.
Okay, Mark. I'm confused, and I'm hoping you can help me.
Yes, sir.
In President Trump's first term, he appointed, and I want to say it was Sean Spicer, to a military board.
You're right on.
As soon as Bribham is ascended to the residency.
Wait a minute. I love that name. Bribham. You win a signed book, Mr. Producer. Don't let this man hang up without getting his full name and address. That's great. Go ahead.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Well, anyway, as soon as he ascended to the residency, he fired him. And Mr. Spicer fought it all the way to the Supreme Court and actually got the outcome he wanted, which was the Supreme Court to say, yes, the president can fire anybody at any time.
Right.
Why are we still having all these court cases? If President Trump wants to fire somebody, why?
I'm guessing because that was an advisory committee versus an independent agency. That's probably what they're resting this thing on. But president has to be able to fire people. Otherwise, he doesn't control the executive branch. And the idea that you have independent agencies that are independent of the rest of the government, to me, that's clearly unconstitutional. Clearly. All right, Bob, don't hang up. Don't hang up. I shall return. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
First, I want to give a shout out to my old friend Bill Corsair. Great patriot, Vietnam vet. His birthday. And first time I was really on radio, I was calling into his show in Philadelphia, where he was on late at night. And as a kid, I was 14, 15 years old, I would wait up all night. I think he came on like 12 or 1 a.m. till 5 a.m. It was a fantastic show called The Little Rascals, and people would call in, and he'd give them names, and they'd give themselves names. You know what my name was, Mr. Producer? The Matzo Ball Kid. But in any event, it was a blast. He's a great man. Beautiful wife. I want to wish them both the best. Him the best of health and happy birthday. And also to one of my great mentors and his wife, who was also a mentor, Ed and Ursula Meese, 66th anniversary, wedding anniversary. Fantastic people. Fantastic people. And just love them to death. And from Julie and me and the family to them, as well as to Bill, Janet, from the family, God bless you all. It's terrific people. You know, when you really sit back and think about the influences in your life, it's good to do that. I don't do it enough, but I try to do it. And to recognize these people as time goes on. Okay. Well, here. Well, it looks like Anna's back from Savannah, Georgia, WTK. Anna, is that the real Anna or a fake?
I believe it's Anna, spelled backwards, A-N-N-A.
Ah, then you're it. You're the real Anna. You know, after you, Anna, Bob called, and I asked him how he spells his name backwards. But he didn't hang up on me. Go ahead, Anna.
That's pretty funny. It's an honor to talk to you, Mr. Levin.
You can call me Mark. Thank you.
I just wanted to say, Mark.
Yes.
You know, I'm down south in Savannah.
I know, but I feel like I know you, Anna. Do I know you?
Are you blood type O negative? Because there's apparently like a club out there for O negative donors. The website, dating website. Anyway.
No, I'm happily married. It was just a joke. Anyway, go ahead, Anna.
Oh, me and my... so I live about 15 minutes from the Hyundai plant.
Yes.
I grew up in Charleston, have been in Savannah since 97. We moved out to Pooler after COVID due to all the influx and raising rent, and you couldn't find anything affordable. So the market is based on supply and demand, of course, as you know. I found myself living amongst 40 different countries.
In Savannah.
And our rent kept in Savannah and Pooler, Georgia, which is right outside of Savannah.
Yes.
But the rent...
You're saying they drove the price up of all your commodities and the rent and everything else, correct?
That's
Anna,
right.
Now I got to hang up on you. I apologize. The music means I got to go. I want to salute all you heroes out there. Anna, hang in there. God bless each and every one of you. We'll do this again tomorrow, right? See you then.